Hey you guys, it's Amanda with Healthy House on the Block, and I'm here with our weekly video and tip on creating an indoor space that truly supports your health and your wellness. And this week, we are starting at square one, house hunting, and how to do it in a really healthy way. So you may not be house hunting right now, or maybe you are, but you can always come back and reference this video and reference my blog post with the checklist anytime. So we are going to go through the list of things I wish every buyer that I met with on inspections knew before I came out. It's a list of things that are going to help you choose a home that is right for you and take a lot of the emotion out of it and give you a more logical lens as to what you should be looking for to make sure that your home is a really healthy space, because who wants to move into a house that's just going to give them problems down the road, a house that needs a lot of changes to make it healthier. So we're going to get started on the right foot. We're going to pick a home or look at homes in a way that supports our health and wellness rather than burdens it down.
Catching homebuyers at the end of their hunting journey is where I usually find myself. And quite often, by the time I get to them, they have fallen so in love with the house that we are inspecting that there just really isn't a lot I can do to change their mind if it really the right house for them. Oftentimes, we leave our choices in the home we choose up to feelings that make us happy. And once we fall in love with the house, it can be really hard to use that reasoning or logic part of our brains to change our minds. But what if we went into house hunting with a more logical approach rather than a purely emotional approach? I think a lot of heartache could be totally avoided, because house hunting is really such an exciting time. We forget that it can actually be really overwhelming too, especially if you don't go into it with some logical thinking. So as someone who gets to walk through and dig deep into a home, I know that there are often things missed during a walkthrough before an offer is put in. In the same breath, I really think that arming yourself with an idea of exactly what you're looking for prior to making an offer is key to making a good decision. After all, houses are more than just their bones or their location. The house as a whole is a really intricate system of many parts working together to create an environment that both protects us and keeps us comfortable. So often, the things people look at in a home come down to cosmetics or beauty rather than the functionality or the health of the home. And although in a way this makes sense, a home should make you feel good. It's an important factor. It shouldn't be the sole deciding factor when it comes to putting in an offer on a home. So before you or someone you know goes house hunting, I want you to use the list I'm going to give you in this video and the resources I have in the blog post this week to know exactly what to pay attention to before you fall in love with the wrong house. So I'm going to give you 7 things that we're going to look for, and I have even more in my download that I have in this week's blog post for you that I'll talk about at the end. So the first thing we're going to look at is the location and direction. The location of your house, for obvious reasons, is really at the top of the list, but it is more than just where on a map your potential home is. We need to look, are there businesses nearby that manufacture various products or materials? Is the home near a landfill of some kind? These are all things you want to look at when it comes to the environment around your house. Remember that your groundwater is running through this environment coming to your home. Something else you might be interested in is the amount of time it takes you to get places. places that are important to you, like school or work or church. If the drive is a long one, you will start to notice it after a while when there is road construction or winter weather on the roads. And then you also want to pay attention to the direction that your home faces. So if you live in a climate where it snows and there is ice during the winter, a driveway that faces north might mean the snow never really melts until spring. And if you live in a hot southern state and the driveway is blacktop but faces south, you might notice more wear and tear and need for replacement. A home with a lot of windows on the south side will retain heat in the winter and be more efficient during the heating season. And a home with fewer windows on the south side will stay cooler year round. So depending on where you live and what your climate is, you'll really want to pay attention to the direction the majority of the home's windows face in order to help you with your heating and cooling costs as the year progresses. We're also going to look for signs of water damage. Knowing the signs of water damage can be incredibly helpful and can help you rule out a house when you're seeing it for the first time. It can be really heartbreaking to fall in love with a house only to find out it has water damage that will be a huge expense to repair. So first, look for staining on drywall and ceilings. This is the number one telltale sign that something has leaked. It often has kind of a yellowish, brownish ring and tint to it, but it can also just be a different texture on the wall or the ceiling if it's been painted over. If you have the opportunity to gently push on a different texture of wall and you feel that it's really soft beneath your fingertips, that's going to tell you that there may still be a leak somewhere within that wall that needs to be addressed. You can also feel around corners of carpet to make sure that it's actually dry and not damp at all. This is especially true in lower levels. Water damage often means that there was or is a leak somewhere from plumbing or from the exterior. Most leaks are repaired as soon as they are noticed. However, if the drywall has not had a chance to dry out within, say, 48 hours, the potential for mold growth within that panel increases drastically. You can also check with the seller about any water damage that you notice. A lot of times they are extremely helpful as they're actually required to disclose any known water leaks in the home, and chances are they want to sell their house. So finding out what kind of leak it was, maybe it was from plumbing or exterior, and then how the area was cleaned up is the best way to decide if it really is a large issue preventing you from putting an offer in on this home. And I also, in this week's blog post, am linking you to my water damage guide that you can use when you go to look through homes. It'll give you every single thing you need to look for to determine if a home has water damage. The third is electrical updates. So if the home you're looking at is a recent build, maybe within the last 30 years or so, there's likely not going to be a whole lot of updating to the electrical system. This is usually completely fine, and as long as there hasn't been a lot of DIY work around the electrical, you probably will not have major issues with that system. If you're looking at an older home, however, hopefully the electrical has been updated at some point. If you're walking through a home and you're seeing a lot of older two-prong style outlets without the grounding plug, the home's electrical may not have been completely updated. The same is true if you are looking at an electrical panel and it contains fuses. You can know right off the bat there is probably a pretty hefty electrical update that needs to happen. So this definitely doesn't have to be a deal breaker, but if you're looking to move in right away, you'll want to make sure that you have 100 amp service. So some older homes actually have only 60 amp service to the home. And then you're also going to want to make sure that the home has circuit breakers rather than fuse boxes. And then another thing you want to look for when we're looking for a healthy home is look where those electrical panels are, where junction boxes are, and where appliances back up to. Reducing EMFs in sleeping areas is a really important part of creating a healthy home. So make sure appliances and other electrical components like panels and meters are not on shared walls with bedroom spaces. We're also going to talk about the number of previous owners. So this would be information you would get when you go to your showing or before you go to the showing. A home that still has the original owner living there has, generally speaking, been well cared for. While this doesn't mean it happens in every single case when you're house hunting, it's just a general rule of thumb that fewer owners during the lifetime of a home generally means there were fewer changes and it was more well cared for. When more and more owners line the list of past occupants, there also tends to be a bit of noticeable DIY changes to the home as each person kind of tried to make it their own. So while this isn't bad, sometimes it can mean changes were made unnecessarily, possibly compromising the systems or structure at some point. And if you find a home that has the original owner and they have a lot of pride in their home, you have definitely hit the jackpot. These are the best homes to find as they have someone living there who really loves the home and cares for it in a really great way. This isn't to say that a home that has had a new owner every 3 years is a dud. What it means is you need to walk through the home with caution. Make sure you're being very diligent as your realtor shows you this home. You want to keep an eye out for evidence of a homeowner who has DIY'd their home to be their own. Another thing you can look at is the type of finishes that are in the home. So when you're house hunting, you'll start to notice that there are some finishes that are just higher quality than others. And understand that generally, higher quality materials are actually lower in toxins as well. So cheaper construction usually contains more plywood, which emits VOCs. It also contains formaldehyde, while hardwood finishes are usually a safer and healthier option. So looking at a home with this in mind can help you spot a true gem and avoid something that uses cheap finishes that you'll eventually have to replace. So first we want to look at interior doors. Doors that are hollow core are generally the cheaper builder grade option. And in contrast, a home with 6-panel solid wood doors shows that a homeowner really cared about the finishes inside its home. Flooring is another spot to inspect when you're house hunting. Higher quality finishes like solid hardwood or tile are great choices as they generally last for a long time and they have fewer toxins. What you want to watch out for would be old vinyl flooring. This can actually emit high levels of VOCs, as well as carpet, which can not only contain PFOAs and flame retardants, but also it holds on to toxic house dust. Other high quality items that you can watch for would be cabinets made of solid wood and trim that is solid wood rather than like a composite or a fiberboard. So obviously you can change any of these elements of a home to be a higher quality at any time. But the problem is you'll be spending a lot of your budget on finishes rather than on other systems within the home. And we're going to look at basements. When you walk down into the basement of a potential home, you might get that overwhelming scent of like a musty basement smell. So many basements have some type of odor, but some have an overpowering odor of like wetness and damp carpet. If a basement smells damp and musty, it usually is, even if it's under carpet or behind walls. So notice the smell as you walk down and pay attention to the basement. If it feels damp as well, you can notice that. You can also be on the lookout for a dehumidifier somewhere in the lowest level. This is going to be a telltale sign that the basement gets damp often and the current homeowner uses the dehumidifier to reduce moisture inside. You can also look at areas of concrete that are exposed, either on the floor or on the foundation itself. If there is evidence of wetness or it looks damp, it's likely pulling moisture in from the exterior, and this is why the home feels so damp in the basement. Sometimes a home may have a moisture barrier painted on the concrete walls of the basement. This is going to help with that damp feeling, but you'll notice if it starts to peel or become worn from too much moisture. So the reason to watch out for a damp basement is because a basement that's very damp can house mold and mildew, and it can also have a compromised foundation due to those really high levels of moisture that are surrounding it. And again, this isn't necessarily a deal breaker, but it could mean more cost to you in the end if it's the home you choose. It might mean installing gutters or a drain tile system around the home, and those things can add up rather quickly. And then finally, we're going to look at environmental testing. So as you're house hunting, just know that you have the power to choose to do environmental testing to make sure your home is healthy and safe. These are generally things that we would do after you make an offer, but it's a good thing to consider and think about as you're walking through the home, because these are expenses that you will incur as you are just putting in your offer and getting inspections done. So radon testing is the first test, and I almost always recommend this test, especially if you live in an area where radon levels can potentially be higher. This is extremely important. And another factor to consider is if you have a bedroom or an office or a living space in a room that's below ground. Because radon is heavier than air, it tends to pool in the lowest levels, which is where someone would run a short test. And so we want to make sure these rooms are safe for you to live in and be in. You could also have mold testing done in a short time frame while you're in the contingency period. So if you're sensitive to mold or you have reason to believe that there was past moisture damage in the home, a mold test is the best thing to do to get peace of mind and assurance that your home really is healthy. And if the home you're considering purchasing is older, you may even want to do lead testing or asbestos testing on surfaces to ensure there's no potential for these dangerous toxins to get into the air in your home. These are tests that you can do after you put in an offer, as they can take just a few days to get the results back. But it wouldn't hurt to perform your own tests at home after you've moved in if there's no immediate concern when you're walking through the house. So on the blog this week, I have at-home tests that you can do for each of these areas in your own home after you move in. So if and when you or someone you know will be out and about house hunting, really make sure that you are armed with these items to watch for. A home isn't all about just how you feel when you see it or the fact that you love the look of it. A home is also an investment for you and your family, and by choosing the right home, you'll be guaranteeing your investment doesn't become a money pit. So I'm also going to invite you to head to the blog post. I have 2 really great free guides for you. The first is the free homebuyer guide, which I'm going to take you through in a second. And the second is my free video class. It gives you 15 super easy steps to creating a healthy house. So here's a look at the Healthy Homebuyer Guide that you can download for free. It's going to be something that you could bring to each of your showings. We'll have a spot for information and notes, and then all of these things that you're going to want to check as you walk through the house. So this is water damage and moisture intrusion signs. And then we also are going to look at materials and finishes. It gives you a lot of information on each thing you want to look for. We're also going to look at the mechanicals that you want to pay attention to, looking for things that could be potentially expensive to replace or dangerous. And then we're going to take a look at windows, and then just around the house. So this would be electrical components. You want to pay attention to drastic temperature changes, odors, walk the basement, all of these things. And then we're going to go to the outside and the exterior. And then I also have some mindset shifts for showing that are definitely going to help you along the way.
I hope that you found at least one thing from this week's video that was helpful. Maybe it even helps you go through your own home that you currently have. Whatever it is, I hope you will use it, and I hope you will come back again and subscribe to my channel, because I am here every single week with new information, new tips on creating an indoor space that truly supports your health and your wellness.